Hello once again. This time I'm going to talk about what's the costs, certainly not financial costs, but costs and resource and energy to do pendulum work, to do this subconscious brainstorming that I've mentioned. The cost, well, obviously the cost is certainly not in the investment of creating pendulum itself. That's trivial, and it has very few moving parts, so to speak. So you might want to invest some time in that, of course, to create pendulum bobs that are symbolic to your effort. That comes later. At the minimum, I can use my mandala. Here I have a pendulum already. So, effort, cost. Okay, I've mentioned that this is going to take about 5 minutes a day for at least a week, to develop a skill, to build up the swing, because this is not something that comes overnight, unless you practice 5 minutes every hour for the day. And that's not outside the realm of possibility, and it is in fact a good strategy. However, this is again about investment in energy, time. These little chunks, if you think of it in that startup process, is going to be the longest period of time that you will be conscious of. Once you get into the swing of it, using it, time will just dissolve, and there's a point where you might even get just drawn into it so much that, well, we won't go any further on that regards. I haven't gone that far on myself, but I've spent many hours on this. Not in swinging, well, the chart and map development certainly, because that requires some foresight into the problems that you might approach and the answers that they might have. And having a good chart or map that is designed well, we'll go into that later, can yield answers to questions with greater clarity. And certainly you need clarity when that oddball 1 in 20 questions that surprises you. It needs to be clear and no muddy. However, muddy does work, and this is where we get into the second part of the expense chart, so to speak. The time that it takes to get to that 20th question. Well, certainly 19 other questions before it, but that 20th question might be the first, and the 19 that follow are just ordinary vanilla-flavored responses. No surprises there. So why did you go to the other 20? Well, there's other things to explore, and sometimes you need to double-check your answers for validity. That is yet another expense. So all of these expenses, like I said, involve neither the pendulum or the chart that it's over to any great extent. They both have their individual artistic touches, and that's what we're talking about here. But the drill of the exercise, the asking of the questions, well, how do you come up with a question? That in itself is an art. Now, I have a number of resources available, a lot of published work. I've been doing this for a couple of decades now, so this is not an unfamiliar area of discussion. Within all that body of work, there is a lot of plain, ordinary questions asked. And those questions can be as wide as, what career path do you want to take? This is leaving the field of novel writing right now and into other applications of using a pendulum to solve problems. And I'm speaking of deep personal problems, finding yourself and such. These are not alien to the concept of finding your characters. So these deep questions, again, questions, need to have a root, and that root is in something that's very common, like what field would you fit in best in your career? This is it. This is if you were in a late teens. And I've done this with teenagers, and they've explored career paths that family was not entirely, they weren't convinced, but that teen was. And it revealed itself in that 20th answer, believe me. So we have career choices, we have, well, certainly, well, setting choices. Where would you like to live? This is another life choice that it can be invested into developing your novel. Placing your character into that setting, how well do those integrate? All of these should be expressed in questions with clear, achievable answers. And in that, there's a lot of my resources offer you scripts. This is very script heavy if you approach it with a determination of investment. The time investment here is in those questions. You either summon them up, or I can provide them for you through publications, or we can do it in sessions. Of those three, you need to do a lot of that work for yourself to even get to the point where you get to the point of the depth of something that's revealed as a surprise, that 1 in 20 answer, something big, the one answer. But for it to lock into anything meaningful, it has to be tested against alternatives. And a lot of my published work has scripts to test these things. And you'll find these kinds of tests, cross-testing, counter-testing, using the pendulum for the same field of interest, like what's going on with my character here. You get one answer, we're going to test that answer following another path in from the same question. All of these are techniques that allow you to get a return on your investment in this process. So I hope that that helps you consider how much you want to follow this line of inquiry. However, it'll turn out well. You'll enjoy it, and it'll be valuable. This'll turn out well.